Tanaiste, I want to raise again with you the issue of motor insurance premiums, which are continuing to soar, as you know. And I think you know the facts pretty well at this stage. An increase of 60% in premiums since the beginning of 2014, and an increase in the last 12 months alone of some 35%. The bottom line now, Tanaiste, is that motorists have had enough of these unacceptable and unsustainable premium hikes. This is now a priority issue, not just for private motorists, but indeed also for many businesses who are feeling the brunt of these savage increases. And 2 weeks ago, Fianna Fáil put this issue firmly on the Dáil agenda through a private member's motion, which we put forward, and a motion was agreed unanimously by the House on that occasion. Now, the motion called for a number of things, but the principal element on it was the establishment of an independent task force along the lines of the Motor Insurance Advisory Board, which very successfully tackled this issue some years ago. But I want to make the point on it that when motions are passed by this House, those motions represent the will of the members of Dáil Éireann, and through us represent the will of the people we represent. And motions passed by Dáil Éireann cannot be simply ignored by government. So I'm asking you this morning, what steps does the government intend to take to tackle this issue and to implement the measures set out in the motion which was agreed by the House? We acknowledge in Fianna Fáil that there is no silver bullet to resolving this issue, and while the government doesn't control premiums, government can influence many of the factors that are behind the level of increases that we're witnessing. The problem here, Tanaiste, is we simply do not know who to believe, and we don't have the data to reach reasoned conclusions. The industry tells us, for example, that the reason behind the premium hikes lies in the area of claims, in the number of claims and in the cost of settling claims. But the data we do have doesn't back this up. For example, the total amount paid out by insurance companies on claims for 2014, which is the most recent data we have, was 36% less than the amount paid out in 2011. We need measures to tackle the issue of false and exaggerated claims, legal costs. We need a national claims register, and we need to look at the level of awards being made. We also need to review the role of the Injuries Board, and I welcome the fact that some work is being done in that area. But one of the main difficulties, as I see it, is the fact that the vast majority of claims are now being settled out of court and out of the Injuries Board process, and so we do not have any oversight or indeed any transparency in relation to that. So we need a national claims register. So increases now are typically of the order of €200 to €300, Tanaiste, with many increases of far greater than those amounts. It's not acceptable. We need action, and I want to know what is the government doing to tackle this issue on behalf of consumers.
Well, I too want to congratulate the Republic of Ireland soccer team in what was a momentous win last night in Lille. I think the match and that goal will rank right up there with the best of our memories of Irish soccer, and well done to Martin, Roy, Robbie and the entire team. And of course the fans, who I think everyone will agree have done us proud and lifted all our spirits. So very well done to them and the best of luck. In relation to the issue that you've raised, Deputy, about motor insurance and the reports, and indeed the reality of sharp increases in motor insurance being charged to some people, I am concerned, and the government is concerned, as you know. In relation to that, motor insurance is a very important part of the household budget, and the kind of increases that we're seeing do have serious impact. In terms of the question of the cost, there's a number of government departments, state bodies and private sector organisations obviously have an interest in the cost and involved in relation to the cost of this. I am advised by the Minister for Finance that he has asked, as you know, his officials to examine the factors which contribute to that increase in costs of insurance, and you have laid out yourself the multifaceted nature of those increases and indeed the work that needs to be done. The work is part of an overall review of policy in the insurance sector, which the Department of Finance is carrying out in consultation with the Central Bank and other departments, agencies and external stakeholders. The objective of the review is to recommend measures to improve the functioning and the regulation of the insurance sector, and the first phase of the review is focused on the motor insurance compensation framework, and this work is nearing completion. The next phase involves examining the factors contributing to the increasing cost of insurance and identifying what short-term measures, as you say, it is urgent, what short-term measures can be introduced to help reduce the cost insurance for consumer and businesses, while also addressing those that need more long-term policy implementation. It is a priority for the Minister for Finance. And I'm sure the Minister for Finance takes the point that you make in relation to motions that are passed in this House and the need for follow-up action. And I will bring to his attention that you have raised it again here this morning.
1 minute, Deputy McGrath.
Tanaiste, I thank you for your reply, but to be honest with you, concern from government is no longer enough. Motorists want action on this issue, and the Minister for Finance set up a department-led review of the wider insurance sector a number of months ago, and as part of that they are looking at issues relating to motor insurance. But that's not an independent task force which would be at arm's length from the department, which would have an independent chair, which would have a terms of reference and which would have a deadline, and whose task should be to examine and identify what are the root causes behind the level of increases that we're witnessing in motor insurance premiums, and most importantly to make recommendations as to what we can do to tackle the issue. And we've touched on a number of the reasons behind it. On Saturday week there is going to be a massive protest here in Dublin, organised by a young man in Killorglin, County Kerry, Cian Griffin, a motoring enthusiast, and thousands of cars are going to be here in Dublin to make the point that they want action on this issue. So, Tanaiste, I want you to take the message back to the Minister, but also to the whole of government, that the response from government so far is not satisfactory, it is inadequate, and I would say it is woefully inept. We need far more action from government to tackle this issue. We need you to implement the motion, set up an independent task force to get to the bottom of this issue, because people are looking at more increases of perhaps up to 30% this year, if they can get a quote at all. And that's increasingly an issue, not just for younger drivers, but for people driving older vehicles who are also paying the higher rates of motor tax. So let's.
Thank you. Tanaiste.
I agree with you in relation to the challenge that it poses and the need for action. The review is obviously the first part of the Department of Finance's response to the issue. An internal review such has been done. I think it is important, and you'll agree, it's a complex issue. It's important to identify the variety of factors that are contributing to this. For example, the public PIAB is doing its own separate piece of work looking at the whole quantum and damages that are applied at present to try and bring more consistency into its award. So that's an important element of it as well. I take your point in relation to an independent task force, and I'm sure that's something that once the review is completed, or indeed perhaps in advance of it, that the Minister for Finance may consider, and it's certainly something I'm sure you'll be pursuing with him, and I will bring to his attention what you said today.